Thank you. All right, thanks everybody. So I have some live demos that I'm gonna keep futzing around. I'm trying to get my phone to talk to my computer, and like my cable isn't working, and I've borrowed a cable. We'll see what happens. But if not, we'll just all work together and we'll see the demos on our own. But we're gonna talk about doing augmented reality, but we're gonna do it all in the browser. So I'm Doug. I'm originally from Seattle, but I've been traveling around Europe for 4 years with my family. And I help people make their websites faster, make their native apps faster. I wrote a book. If you want to download, if you want to speed up your Android app, feel free to download it. That's the PDF. And if you ever want to talk about any of this stuff, I'm the only Doug Sillars on the internet, so I'm easy to find. So when we start thinking about virtual reality, we're thinking about going into, obviously, a virtual world that's in the computers that we can explore on our own. And like, it's getting easier and easier. You can buy one of these things and you snap your smartphone into it, and you can do virtual reality with your smartphone. And that's really, really awesome. And it's a lot of fun if you've had a chance to do it. And the great thing is it's really easy to get these headsets. They're on Amazon. There are like 3,000 of them on Amazon, and they're not that expensive. They're like under 20 pounds. I can't remember where I took the screenshot. So they're pretty easy to get. People can do virtual reality. The trick is, of course, you don't carry one of these around with you. Like, you've got your phone in your pocket, but you don't have like, oh, this is virtual reality, right? It's not a thing that we do. So augmented reality, like, I guess I was doing augmented reality in 2012. Do you remember Google Glass? Like, I could get my tweets up in the corner. That's sort of an augmented reality, I guess. Those are really cool. Best sunglasses I've ever owned. And the one thing that really got people angry about Google Glass is everyone was really worried that I was videotaping them or taking photos of them, and I started to get like side eye in public. Like, people would be like, what's that guy doing with this Google Glass? What they didn't tell you is that there's like 2 watch batteries in the back of that thing. And so your battery life, if you're recording video, is about 90 seconds. So you weren't taking videos of random people because you wanted to get your tweets in the corner when they came. But nowadays, what augmented reality looks like is sort of like the HoloLens from Microsoft. And these are really cool. Has anyone gotten a chance to use one of these? A couple hands. If you get a chance to use them, they're a lot of fun. You can interact by like touching and moving your finger around, and it's really fun. And there are a lot of really neat applications that I've seen that people are building with these sorts of tools. But if you want to build augmented reality for the public, the HoloLens costs $3,000. Like, this is not something that the average person is going to have. This is definitely sort of an enterprise, or a gamer, someone who's really into it is going to have this. If you want to do augmented reality for the masses, this is not the right approach. But what a lot of people have, right? We all have one in our pocket. Just about everyone has a smartphone. And so if we can do augmented reality in the smartphone, we're really on the right track. Like, this is a way to engage with a huge community of people and do augmented reality. And so, of course, like, when you think about augmented reality in the smartphone, everyone thinks Pokemon Go, right? Because we remember Pokemon Go. It's still around. People love it. I got started doing all of this, doing app performance. And do you remember when this came out, it crashed all the time? All right, so the reason it crashed all the time is when the app fired up, there was a bunch of connections going back to Niantic Labs, deciding like how to, where the Pokemons are, where the gyms are, where Doug is. And rather than using one connection and piggybacking all those API requests, they opened up 6 connections per device. And so what ended up happening is they ran out of IPs and ports, and it was a distributed denial of service attack from the application. That's just a sort of a neat aside. They're getting better at it, but every now and then there still are problems with that because there are just so many connections inside the app. But augmented reality in the browser and virtual reality in the browser, we can do this today. And we can do it on our smartphones today. So I want to give some demos of that. And then I want to talk about what's coming up in the future, what's coming up tomorrow. Has anyone used A-Frame before? A few hands. And so A-Frame, it's an open source tool. It's built by the folks at Mozilla. You can check it out at aframe.io, and all of the examples I'm going to show you today are up on my GitHub, so you can go and look at them and play around with them if you're interested. And I'll post the slides up later after the talk. So if you want to get these URLs, they'll be up online later this afternoon. So the way this works, it's pretty straightforward. Whoa, my screen went to sleep, but it's not the battery. Okay, good. All right, so the way this all works is it looks a lot like HTML, right? So you've got an HTML, you've got a body, and then you sort of have this A scene, the A-frame scene, and it's all sort of written in sort of pseudo HTML. We add boxes, we add positions, right? So it sort of looks like, we also have to add the A-frame script, right? So that the JavaScript, so the whole thing can run. But like, it sort of looks like HTML. So if you've built on the web, this sort of looks familiar to you. You've got the script, you've got the scene, you've got all the objects that we're adding into our scene. Now, one trick that we need to think about is, you see the positions has 3 points to it. There's X, Y, and Z in that order. And because Z is facing out of the screen in a positive direction, if you want objects to be in front of your users, you have to put them at a negative Z so that they're behind the screen, which is a little weird to think about. But if you look, all of those objects have a negative Z and they'll appear in front of the screen when I load up this page. So we should just load up the page, right? This live demo works, it's not on my phone. Whoops. Come on. All right, here we go. There it is, right? We've got a box, a sphere, a cylinder, and we can use our keys to walk around and see what's going on. Like 12 lines of code, right? That's pretty cool. I think it's really cool. But the subject of my talk is we're going to build an art gallery. And so, but to build an art gallery, what I want to do is I want to build a bunch of walls. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some planes and rotate them into be the side walls, the front wall, the back wall, and the floor and the ceiling, right? So I just built a bunch of walls. And it's A-frame room. I left the hello world, sorry, I can't type and speak at the same time. I left the hello world thing in there, right? But so we've got a room now, right, with our spheres and things in it. Now what's kind of funny about this is there's no physics, so I can walk through the walls, no problem. And then you also have to define the shapes and the colors on both sides of the wall. And because I didn't define what's on the other side of the wall, they're invisible. Right? So there's some stuff here that I could do to make this look a lot better. But I've built a wall, and now I want to add some art. And what's really cool about building an art gallery that's virtual is I can take art from anywhere in the world. So this is in Norway in a museum. This is Scream, and I can put it in the room. So A-frame room, art. There, right? We've got Scream on the wall. There it is. And the way I do that is a couple things. One is I have to add an asset of the image. And so I give it an image ID of Scream. I have it hosted up at Cloudinary. It's a cloud hosting image service. And then basically I apply Scream to a box. And so the box has a few parameters to it. It has a position on the wall, -4 in front of me. I have it 2 meters up because we never put priceless art on the floor. And then the way I came up with the scale is all of this is in meters. And according to Wikipedia, it's 91 centimeters by 73 centimeters. So there we go. That's how I came up with the size. I did make it pretty thick because it gives us a really neat 3D sort of wraparound canvas look, right? Fun things you can do if you're interested. We could, so if I do just art, we'll just see. Now, what's interesting is it does put Scream on all 6 sides of this cube, of this box. It's a rectangle, I guess. So you can see it's smashed on that side. It's on the back, right? It's on the top. And we can see that because you can add animation, and so why not take priceless art and have it spin around? So now you can see that it's on all 6 sides. if we wanted to see that. All right, so then you can just do animations by adding an animation tag and making it rotate around the axes and tell it how long you want it to do all of that. So lots of fun things we can do with A-Frame to put augmented reality, virtual reality into the web browser just today, which is really kind of cool. But let's go big, right? We've got Scream, but let's add a few more priceless works of art. So here we have the Mona Lisa, we're gonna have some Picasso, we're gonna have Starry Night, all in one room. There we go, right? And if you've ever seen any of these, like the Mona Lisa is, notoriously famous for being teeny tiny, right? That's the actual size of the Mona Lisa. The great things now we can get really close, no alarms are gonna go off. We can do anything we want here. We can put all this art on the wall and do whatever we want. The Picasso I had to put over on this wall because the Picasso, the La Guernica is really, really big, and actually I had to make it smaller because this Picasso was 5 meters wide, and so I made it 3 meters wide so it would fit on my wall. And so that got me thinking, like, well, if I can lie about the size of the images, like, why don't we make Starry Night big? We've got a high resolution, JPEG of the file, so let's check it out. Now we can go and really see the details of the Starry Night artwork, which is kind of fun. In the back of the room over here, I added a 3D model. So like, now we've got Michelangelo's David, and we can see Michelangelo's David in all of his glory. We can go all around. Yeah, right? That's the not safe for work part of this talk. But it's art. It's priceless art. It's okay. So, I created a bunch of boxes. I made them all the right size for all the different works of art. There's Starry Night on the third wall at a larger scale. And then the 3D model. And so this 3D model is a GLTF model. And you can export this from Blender or any sort of 3D modeling tooling that you might use. I thought I would go big and really if you're gonna add a ceiling, you should add a ceiling, right? So I showed this at another talk, and some guy told me that the Vatican, I just walked right through David. Sorry, dude. He's hollow on the inside. Yeah, all right. So anyway, apparently the Vatican is looking to copyright all its works of art. I don't know how you do that, but I would imagine that's in the public domain. But anyway, there's the Sistine Chapel roof, right? And so the way I did that is I made it a cylinder and just put it sideways, and then I'm showing theta is how much of the cylinder to show. So it's only showing 180 degrees of the cylinder, and then I just put the Sistine Chapel image on it. And there we go, we've got the Sistine Chapel on there. So now we have this pretty cool art gallery. It's still virtual reality. It's not augmented reality, right? We're still in, it's still in a virtual world. So the GLTF models, you can download from just about anywhere. It's supported in all the browsers. You have the .gltf file is an XML that kind of puts everything together. You've got textures that get wrapped around all the points, and all the points are stored in the .bin file. The .bin file can be really big, right? So we're looking at, this thing is about 25 megabytes to put one of these, the GLTF file of David in my, on my web page. And so you open up in DevTools, and we're looking at a 30 megabyte web page, which is fine, but it could be slow. It could take a long time to load. It could be expensive for people on limited data plans, because this does actually load just fine on your phone. But I'm a performance guy, and that's too big for me, so we'll talk about how we're gonna make it smaller, because I think, to me, that's important. But let's jump into a little bit of the A-frame bit. And so what we're gonna do today to make this work is we're gonna use ar.js. So we're just adding a second script. We're adding the ar.js script. And now, because we've got augmented reality in here, we need to add some markers to show where we're gonna put the augmented reality. I'll show you what that looks like in a second. And we also have to add a camera, because all of a sudden now, we're worried about our camera and where it is in the space of the room. So when you talk about ar.js, we start talking about markers. And so now this is the interactive part where we're all gonna pull out our phones and enter a URL. So if you all open up your phones and you hit out the bit.ly link right here, and bit.ly are case sensitive, so you do have to do the capitals and the lower cases, which I get is a little annoying, but that's the way it runs. And if you hit up this URL and you hold your phone up to this marker, what it will do is it will add the Mona Lisa on a cube in space in front of the presentation wall here, hopefully, if it works right. It'll work in any browser on any smartphone. Is it working for you? Okay, we have a couple nods, so it is working. That's great. And if I could get my phone to connect to, I won't move that around so you guys can all try it out. Is everyone seeing a cube with the Mona Lisa like in front of that box? So you got this marker, and what AR.js is doing is you can create these markers and put them in space, and then you can put augmented virtual things in front of in the real world, which I think is kind of cool. You can create your own markers. As part of the AR.js, you can go to the generator and you upload an image. And in my infinite creativity, I made a really big one in Word and took a screenshot of it and uploaded it. And when you run this through the generator, you get a PNG file that you print out or you put on your PowerPoint slides. And then you got a .patt file that you put onto the website. And so what happens is you have a marker, and you insert the pattern, and you tell it what to insert. And so in this case, I'm inserting the Mona Lisa here. So if you try this URL, and at this point, you should have it open. You should just have to edit the end of the URL to ART. And at this point, and it should work. And the one will show the Mona Lisa, and the picture of me is, I'm a little too close, like I'm just getting, this chord will work. All right, so, and what's cool about this is now, the one is the Mona Lisa, and if you try the, if you're getting number 4 to work, so the number 4 is the pigeon eye view of Michelangelo's David. So because the base of David is on the 4, you're looking down at his head, the view that only the pigeons of Florence get to see of David. Oh, I switched it, sorry. So there's David. Sorry for the 20 megabyte download onto your phone. The 3 is going to be another piece of art, right? So in each one of these, we can load different art. Right? Number 2 is going to give you another one. Number 1 is going to go back to the Mona Lisa. So now we could build, you could imagine, you could hang these up on a wall, and people could come in and they could see art at the actual size that it normally is, because you can judge, if you know this is printed out at 4 centimeters, you can actually get the actual size of the Mona Lisa on there, which is kind of cool. If you change the URL to art2.html, you will all of a sudden start seeing covers of Beatles albums. So you can imagine now with just JavaScript or changing the URL, you could have different people in the same room with completely different augmented reality experiences, because you can change what images are being displayed for each marker. So there are a lot of fun things that you can do here. You could make every 50th person who sees this image gets a prize, right? And they have a different image that shows up. There's lots of fun things that we could do to make this work, or to make it fun and make it interactive. I'm going to see if this phone is connecting. It is! Hooray! So now, I can inspect. So thank you for the cord, because it's working now. So this is my phone. And so for those of you who couldn't see it, number 1 gives the Mona Lisa. Number 2 gives Scream. Number 3 is the Picasso. And then, of course, number 4, takes a while to load, is the pigeon view of okay, and then if I change the URL here to art2, all of a sudden the art becomes Beatles album art. Right, so we've got Abbey Road. I think this one is Sgt. Pepper's. Let's see. Yes. And I don't remember. All right, so right, you can change it. You can make it do whatever you want. You can do lots of different things. And all of a sudden, you've got this augmented reality working right in your browser, which I think is kind of fun. All right, so I did mention optimizations. So if you're on a slow network connection, slower than the Wi-Fi that's here today, this is a video, right? You could see that maybe the images might take a long time to load, and the last thing we want to do is see a spot on the wall where the art should be. So a lot of funny things were happening when I started building this. The first thing that I noticed is I was just grabbing these images from Wikipedia, and as you can see, the Van Gogh Starry Night is 1.8 megabytes. That's way too big. The way A-frame works today is it requires all the images to have a dimension that's a power of 2. And so A-frame was actually resizing this image to 1024 by 1024. So it was downloading a big image and then forcing the phone to resize it. But if we know it needs to be 1024 by 1024, we should do that on the server before people start downloading it. So with Cloudinary, it's an easy thing to do. I can just set the height to 1024. I've got it sized properly. So that's awesome. Another thing that was happening that was really weird is A-frame is really strict on its cross-origin policies. And so basically it was saying is like, you didn't have a cross-origin policy, so we're just going to download it again with a cross-origin policy. So all of my images are being downloaded twice. So that's sort of ridiculous. And so, of course, the fix there is to add the cross-origin equals anonymous on each one of the image grabs. Now they're only downloading once. So I'm making the page faster. That's good. I can optimize the quality of all the images. I can change the format. I can make it WebP for Chrome. I can make it JPEG 2000 for Safari, which are better formats, better optimization, smaller files will download faster. And when I do all of those optimizations, this image went from 1.8 megabytes to 300K. So we're going to download the page faster. I ended up going a little further and decided 512 by 512 was good enough, and it was going to look fine. And so it was 93 kilobytes. So now this web page is obviously going to load a lot faster. GLTF, I can optimize the 2 images the same way I just optimized Starry Night. But the .bin file is still 23 megabytes. And if you're interested in this, basically what happens is when you export from any sorts of tool, it exports the highest quality version it possibly can. There's a tool called Draco compression that optimizes this, and I got it down to like, I believe 3 megabytes. It's still big, but it's not 25 megabytes, so like I was happy with that. And still I have a 3D model of David in the room, which is awesome. So that's sort of what we can do today, right? We can do all of this today. A-frame is out there. It runs on any browser. You guys all saw a quick demo of it. It's pretty fun. What's coming is the WebXR API. And this API, this is a screenshot from earlier this year, but is getting finalized right now. And there's some demos and like it's getting close to where we can actually begin thinking about using it. When I took this screenshot, you can see this is an unstable API, and any demos that you build are going to break. All right, so the demo that I built when I first wrote this talk, it requires Android 8 Plus. It requires a very old version of Chrome Canary. And so to make this work, I had to go to like one of those sketchy APK downloads and find like an old version of Chrome Canary and sideload it onto my phone. You have to turn on a bunch of flags. You have to have AR core installed. You do all that work, and then you go to bed, and the Play Store auto-updates your Chrome Canary overnight, and you have to do it all again in the morning. So I had to actually go and turn off all the auto-updating in my Play Store so that I can do this demo for everybody. And what's cool about this demo, what this demo has in it is it has the WebXR hit test. And what the hit test does is it can identify where the floor is and where the walls are, and then you can do things to the floors and the walls based on what you want in augmented reality. And so I've got a demo, and we're gonna, because the cord works, we're gonna go for it. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. And rather than type it into my phone, I can just tell my phone to load this. Whoops. If copy and paste worked, that's just annoying. All right, we'll just do it this way. There we go. All right, so it's loading. And I closed the wrong. There we go. There it is. Unsupported browser. Oh, I'm doing it in Chrome and not in Chrome Canary. All right. So we'll close that. We'll go back to. I'm sure it'll show me Chrome Canary down here at the bottom, right, when I open up Canary. You guys have that many tabs open too, right? I'm not the only person who has like, no, nobody else has that many tabs open. Okay. Come on. Well, maybe the demo is going to be really light here, but so the idea here is, come on. Well, we'll let it think for a second. But what happens is when I fire up the phone, I could do it this way, but this is going to be kind of lame. But it's telling me to move my phone around. And what it's going to do is it's going to, when it finds a vertical space, it puts that anchor in place. And when I tap my phone, it will actually place one of our priceless works of art on the wall. And it remembers where it is on the wall. Let's see. Are we back? Are you going to give me Canary? No. Maybe if I kill Chrome and refresh. Come back to Canary. Live demos. All right, but what it will actually do is we actually are able to place, without markers on the wall, I can place the Mona Lisa on the wall. This may not be the best venue for this, but we'll try. Oh, there it is. It's trying to find. All right. Well, anyway, the idea is this is a very alpha version of the API. And of course, now my Chrome isn't even going to behave with me. We'll just unplug it and plug it in again, and hopefully it'll work. All right. But the idea is what happens is this hand waves around on the phone, and it says, here's where you can, to help the phone identify where the walls are. And then an anchor shows up, and then when you hit the button, it will actually put the art in a specific place in the room, and it stays there. So I just put actually Starry Night on the floor over here, and it should remember that Starry Night is on the floor over there. All right, live demos. All right, but what I did is I did some optimizations. So this slide is showing that the stabilization GIF, which is this hand wavy thing, was 850K. The anchor has actually got a classic off by 1 error because it needs to be 1024 by 1024. So we're going to resize that. One thing I found, and if I go full size here, I think it will actually animate that GIF. So this GIF is moving around, right, telling me to wave my hand around to get the screen going. And really, we only need that much space. Generally, I say when you want to optimize, you want to turn GIFs into movies, but this GIF is transparent, and you can't have transparent movies. So animated GIF it is, but I resized it just to be 512 by 512, just the box where the hand is. And when I did that, it became 174 kilobytes. The anchor, I resized it to be 256 by 256. It became 2 kilobytes. The whole web page that I can't demo to you because my computer is not letting me is 600K. But it's augmented reality. I'm actually placing artwork in the room, and it remembers where it is. And to me, I think that's really cool because it's letting me do augmented reality. It's letting people interact with the space they are with virtual materials. It's available today, or the AR with hit points is coming. Like, it's going to be here like this fall, like around Christmas, or by Christmas probably in Chrome. It's not processor intensive. You can do it on a smartphone, and it doesn't use a huge amount of data. Like, I did that whole web page that I can't demo to you, unfortunately, in just 600K. And to me, that's really exciting because it's not something that requires a $3,000 headset to do AR. It's a browser that everybody's got on their phones, and anyone can use it. So with that, all the code is online. So if you want to check all of this out and play with it, you're more than welcome to do that. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much. That was amazing, and I don't know about you guys, but I enjoyed playing with the phones. I see a lot of questions coming up, so let's take it one at a time.
Thanks, Doc, so much. That was cool. I have like 1 million questions, so I'll stick with one.
All right.
Do you know of any, I don't know, let's say business application of this so far? Of A-Frame, I know that WebEx are still in
Of A-Frame, I know there have been some like museums who've thought about doing stuff like this where they can actually like put things like that. The AR.js, I don't know if it's really ready for prime time. Uses of AR that are like commercialized is like, the famous one is the IKEA app. Has anyone played with that? So it's a native app, so it's not in the browser, but the whole idea is you hold it around your room and you say, I really like this sofa, and you go, and it actually puts the sofa in your room at the size that it is. So you can say, is that gonna fit, or is it gonna block the doorway? Or I don't really like it in blue, let's try it in tan. And you can actually use the augmented reality to see if the IKEA furniture is gonna fit in your house. So from that perspective, I see a lot of different applications. You can imagine, like, what if you wanna try a different color bedspread, right? All of a sudden you're like, no, let's try it. Yeah, you can, virtual reality, you can make it right there in your room, which I think is pretty cool.
My next question is, I noticed you're using texture material and color material. What about custom materials, like shader materials in A-Frame? How do they behave? For example, I want to write my own material.
You want to write your own, sorry?
My own material, my own texture. For example, I want to create Predator from Alien vs. Predator, where he is invisible.
So if you build that sort of as a 3D model, I think that will work fine. So if you get a 3D model like a GLTF to load it up, you can use those different textures in your 3D model and it'll load just fine in A-Frame. So I think from that perspective, you can build anything you want and then insert it into the room that you're building.
We have more?
Awesome.
So my question is about the bridge between virtual and AR.
Right.
So my question was, is there a way to describe a room in virtual reality that is analogous to a room that exists in real life, and then just flip a switch to turn a VR project into AR, swapping out the walls, but keeping the artifacts in place, like the pictures on the wall, and so on?
That's a good question. I don't know at this point if there is. Okay. There's a lot of great tools for debugging it. So if you design a shape, so I would imagine if you designed a shape, if you knew the size of this room and you put stuff on the walls, you could have somebody come in right there and it would still be very similar. But I've never tried it, so I don't know if it would work.
This A-Frame, under the hood, what it uses for render method? What is the JavaScript library for rendering?
So it uses 3.js in the background. But A-Frame is just, like, for us as developers, all we need to add is the A-Frame.js, and everything else just comes along as a dependency from the A-Frame.js.
Taking more questions. Here we go.
Hey, So about the optimization, so these 3D models can be quite huge. If
Right.
I have like hundreds of them, it could be like gigabytes of to download.
Totally.
Is it possible to do some kind of lazy loading or kind of like responsive thing so I can like load a smaller, easier object if I'm further away from it, and then as I come closer, I download the larger one?
That's a great question, and I don't know the answer to it. I believe that those files load later anyway, just because of the way because the browsers knows that those are larger files, they tend to load at the end of the load time. But I think there is a way. I just don't know offhand how you would do it. I know that you can have different rooms and different spaces, so you can probably have things load in as you approach them. But yeah, they are big and they are pretty expensive to download, so there is some optimizations that you need to do when you're thinking about putting 100 of them into a room, so you're not crashing the browser, you know, or the phone starts getting really warm in your hand as you're as you're navigating that virtual world.
Hey, first of all, great talk.
Thank you.
My question is, since we were discussing about performance, I just wanted to understand, see, all these rendering is going to be very expensive. So can this be moved to a worker thread? Is it possible? And can all these things be done in a worker thread and then the responsibility being transferred to the main thread later on?
Not that I know of, at least not with A-Frame. So with A-Frame, it's just done in the browser the way it runs. From what I've seen, it actually runs pretty smoothly, and it actually runs better on the phone performance-wise than it does sometimes on the desktop. You can do all sorts of crazy things like build a virtual world where you have a giant movie playing, and then you're walking around it, so you're distorting the movie, right? It's no longer a 1080p movie that's rectangular. It's becoming trapezoid-shaped as you're walking around it, and it still runs really, really well on the phone and in the browser and on the desktop. So from a performance perspective, I haven't actually really even noticed that many hitches or lags from running around. Like maybe if we put in 7 or 8 of these 20 megabyte, you know, GLTF files, then we'd start seeing it. But in general, I haven't seen that as a problem even.
Hi.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for your talk. I was just wondering, would these things also be able to support audio? Like, could Michelangelo's David theoretically talk to you or something?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes, it could. You could, and so there are ways you can interact with it to touch it, and then when you hit the statue, it could make a noise or, you know, whatever you wanted to do. You can put videos. You can have videos playing. There's a lot of really fun things you could do to make it more interactive and playful, for sure.
So when you back up into Michelangelo and see him from the inside out, he would make a noise.
Yeah, he'd be like, yeah.
Sorry?
Hi, thanks for the talk. And my question is actually kind of tangent to his question. How does this library perceive depth of field, and does it actually distort voices when we go away or when we close down?
I've never tried it, so I don't know. So from what I've been able to tell, is sound is kind of, like I've had a movie playing in a world that I've built, and let's see if I can get it to load. It's on a glitch. Here is hilarious statistic. That's how I remember what it is. All right. Let's see if I can make the video play, and I don't know if it'll play through the speakers here, but we'll see if it plays, if it loads. We didn't connect the sound, but I'll tell you from my machine, and we can look at it. Sometimes when I first start this one, so what it sounds like is it's just coming out of my screen. So there's actually Big Buck Bunny is playing on this cube. But it doesn't have any distortion. Like it's just like it's right in front of me, so it's not making any difference. So if you actually look here, like on all the sides, there's a video playing on all 6 sides of, I did it because I could, right? But there's no sound distortion or anything. So if Michelangelo made that, or if David made that noise, it would it would only make that noise because you're standing in front of him, and it would make sense. And now I've got this video playing in like 3 places, and now I hear it playing, and like it's all out of sync. So I'm just going to close that because that's kind of.
If there are no more questions, I have one.
Yes.
We went through walls, we went through David. How difficult is it to apply actual physics?
There is no physics in A-frame. So A-frame doesn't have physics, so if you wanted to do something like that, you'd need to go into a different sort of tool. So with the tool that we've got here, there's no physics.
And another question regarding the sound. Sorry, now I'm taking over a bit. Regarding the sounds, can you get it like stereo? So if a cube is over there playing one song and over here playing another song, I hear it different from my headphones?
From what I just saw in that example, no. So that cube was playing that movie clip with the bird, and it just sounded like, it sounded exactly the same as I was just watching it in my browser as a regular movie. So there is no spatial distortion of the sound, at least with this library.
All right. Anybody else? Going once, going twice? Doug is going to be here for a while.
I'll be around, so
thank
thank you so much, everyone.